meant for even the global supply chains around food production and export. So there are a lot of issues in the global economy leading to rising inflation, rising interest rates, rising unemployment around the world. Even the U.S. economy, it appears, is moving toward recession, in addition to many others. So certainly Nigeria is not operating in a silo. It is going to be affected by the energy crisis. It's going to be affected by this is why His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has really named this campaign the Renewed Hope Campaign. It is not in any way a suggestion that President Muhammadu Buhari has fallen short or has not done well. It's an acknowledgement of the reality of the global economic environment in which we're operating, and the fact that we have to move very aggressively to forestall some of the more adverse impacts of that, of these phenomenon on the Nigerian economy. Now, on the currency question, you've rightly alluded to the issue of devaluation, which of course has been paramount on the minds of our people, and rightly so. It is in the interest of President Muhammadu Buhari and the ruling All Progressives Congress for the Naira to be strong. It is in the interest of anybody who is in government, and even in the interest of our people, of course, for the Naira to be strong. That would be what we would be campaigning on. So if the Naira has fallen, the question is, why has it fallen? Why hasn't the president stopped it? Understand this. Any country, and I want to, anybody can verify this. When there are external shocks, whether caused by global economic conditions or otherwise, there's only one way to bolster your currency at a time of shock, right, or crisis. And the way you do that is by cash injection. You buffer your currency with an injection of your foreign exchange that you've been able to keep away, whether in a sovereign wealth fund or whether in an excess crude account or an excess savings account or your foreign reserves. Wherever you are sourcing your foreign exchange from, your buffer, that is where you will now extract from. The problem we had was that President Muhammadu Buhari came into office in 2015. And between 2004 and 2015, there was an excess crude account that had inflows of up to 107 billion US dollars. By the time Mr. President entered office, 105 billion US dollars had been spent out of that 107 billion dollars, leaving 2 billion in that account. The foreign reserves had been drawn down from the Obasanjo era of about 60 billion dollars down to about 27 billion dollars, barely enough to cater for the needs of the nation in case of a global economic emergency for about 5 months. So essentially at the shallow end of the pool, so to speak. There was no, wealth fund or savings from which we were in a position to draw from to be able to bolster our currency. So naturally it is going to slide, and it's sliding, it has. So this is the situation. And then on top of that, my dear brother, if you look at a place like Japan now, where the dollar is very strong, so all of these other countries that are under the weather, so to speak, of the global economic situation, they are fighting now, bolstering their currency. Japan spent $34 billion in the month of October. I didn't say in 2022. In the month of October alone, the Japanese government spent $34 billion to bolster the Japanese yen against the US dollar to maintain their currency value. So what is going to be the situation of a country like ours, where we had, administrators stealing the money, signing out $300 million, billions of dollars from the Central Bank of Nigeria before Mr. President came into office, reserves depleted across the board. Naturally, we have to go through the painful process of watching our currency slide, and that has been one of the very sad points in what has otherwise been a very positive set of developments for the Nigerian state in terms of infrastructure and social investment under President Muhammadu Buhari's watch.
You touched on something I also want to talk about, because when President Muhammadu Buhari was coming into office, all Nigeria was agog, that, yep, now we got something, we got someone who can confront those seemingly especially Nigerian problems. I'm talking about corruption here. When I said you touched on it briefly, I'm talking about corruption here. People had felt that Muhammadu Buhari would indeed put paid to corruption. Here was a military man. He's explained to us that he's a Democrat now, but here was a man who was not going to stand for nonsense and would bring corruption to the levels where we know that it has been affected. I don't know what your opinion is, but it is being said commonly that the fight against corruption whereas it might have been addressed, many would think that they have not seen the impact of it in terms of, yeah, maybe you can't wipe it out, but you can bring it down to a level where where everybody knows that government is not playing. But it does look in some areas as if things are going on as before. That's one of the things that Tinubu is going to come and have to try his hand at, because it's always easier when you're on the outside. This is what should be done. This is how it should do. Why aren't they doing this? But that, again, it seems to me, is one of the things that Tinubu administration, should he be elected, is going to have to come and deal with. So there's a sense in which the hope that Buhari would radically affect corruption, I don't know what your estimation is as to how well it has gone.
This is really a multi-pronged issue in the sense that, on the one hand, there really needs to be two modes of battle when we talk about the war on corruption. One is preventative, and one is reactionary. You have to react to corrupt practices that have already been undertaken. Then you need to work hard also to ensure that on the preventative leg, you put in place the procedures and the reforms necessary to future corrupt practice. Yes. Let me get to each one. On the issue of asset recovery, I can state empirically, without any emotion or sentiment, that President Muhammadu Buhari has done more in the asset recovery space of the anti-corruption war than any previous civilian, military, or set of civilian administrations combined. We know, as a matter of empirical fact, that between 2009 and 2019, that's a 10-year period, that in terms of just Naira recoveries by the EFCC, that's not including pounds, dollars, euros, land allocations, plots of land and all of that, CFOs and all of that. But in terms of Naira recoveries, the EFCC recovered 1.2 trillion Naira between 2009 and 2019, a 10-year period. Between 2009 and 2015 of that period, the EFCC had only recovered 230-something billion Naira. Right? Meaning that under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration from 2015 to 2019, the first 4 years of the administration, we had recovered billion Naira out of 1.2 trillion. Meaning that the first 6 years, only about 20-something% of it was done. We tripled that rate during the first 4 years of our administration as against the previous 6 years. And not to speak of what we've done up until 2023. And again, that is not including dollars, pounds, euros, and others. So the point here is that on asset recovery, we have done far more than any combination of civilian administrations combined when it comes to getting back the assets stolen from the Nigerian people and then now leveraging on those assets to put in place infrastructure for the Nigerian people. Like the second Niger Bridge was funded by recovered loot. The second, the Lagos-Shagamu-Ibadan Expressway, funded by recovered loot. The Abuja-Kaduna-Zaria-Kano Expressway, funded by recovered loot. So that's one end. On the other end, my brother, on the preventative side, I think it's worth noting, sometimes I believe that there's a tendency towards short memory on the public analysis of some of the issues as we analyze the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. What do I mean? People forget how bad it was, quite simply. Before 2015, we were all in this country between 2010 and 2015, where it seemed like every week there was a new scandal from a new ministry, department, or agency under Goodluck Jonathan's federal government. There was a new thing. If it wasn't a recruitment scandal of immigration service, it was Ministry of Aviation scandal, diversion of funds, using funds meant for one purpose to buy bulletproof cars, theft from the Ministry of Finance, theft from the central bank. I mean, it was just endless scandals. Some of them directly in
the Chinese national anthem